me to welcome to the stage the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Honorable Shirley Ayoko Boche.
Your Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. Your Excellency, Azali Assoumani, President of the Comoros and Chair of the African Union. Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, and their representatives here present. Your Excellency, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, colleague ministers, service chiefs, excellencies, ambassadors and high commissioners, and members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished participants and delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to begin by extending a warm welcome on behalf of the government and people of Ghana to all of you who have traveled from the four corners of the globe to be with us today. To our brothers and sisters who are visiting us from the continent and from the global African diaspora, we say Akwaba, you are welcome home. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the discourse around which we are now gathered in this hall has never been more urgent. The case for reparations and restorative justice for Africans and people of African descent could not be stronger and more just. Even a fleeting analysis of history provides ample evidence that the detrimental effects of slavery, colonialism, and apartheid, etc., continue to impact the socio-economic development on our continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Africa and its diaspora are still reconnecting and collectively healing from the deep wounds inflicted by slavery and colonialism. This historic context is essential to understanding the present and recognizing the urgency of reparations and restorative justice. The demand for a global African identity has never been greater, and it is crucial to recognize how slavery, colonialism, and racism intersect and impact the lives of Africans and people of African descent around the world. It is only in this way that we will be able to advocate for reparations, promote restitution, and restore the dignity of the African continent and its people. We in Ghana note with appreciation the accomplishment of the African Union in establishing a common African position for the restitution of cultural objects plundered from the continent. And we believe that the next logical step is to extend this effort to restoration and reparation of the evils of slavery, colonialism, and the slave trade. We acknowledge in this regard the leading role that the Caribbean region and CARICOM have played in this area. We look forward to adopting the key lessons and best practices from the Caribbean, as well as other regions of the world, to support the important work of developing a common position and agenda for action for the African continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Ghana has been at the forefront of championing reparations and healing from the deep-rooted legacies of slavery, colonialism, and apartheid. Under the leadership of His Excellency, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, our nation has demonstrated exceptional will in advocating for an equitable and just world that treats the global African community with dignity, respect, and equity. In addition, the Republic of Ghana submitted a draft decision to the African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government, the AU Assembly, during the African Union Summit, which was held in February 2023 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Ghana's effort resulted in the Assembly formally and unanimously passing the landmark decision, which was entitled Building a United Front to Advance the Cause of Justice and the Payment of Reparations to Africans. This has become the theme for this international conference on reparations in Accra. This breakthrough decision of the AU Assembly represented the first unified declaration and positioning of the African Union on the question of reparation and restorative justice. This resolution by the African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government notably called for the development of a common African position on reparations, together with a continental program of action. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today we are pleased to be able to convene political leaders from the African continent and beyond, as well as policymakers, academics, civil society actors, and relevant stakeholders from around the continent and the global African diaspora for substantive deliberations, the sharing of best practices, and the development of actionable strategies to promote and advance a continental initiative for reparatory justice for Africa and her people distributed throughout the world. I conclude by once again welcoming all of you to the vibrant city of Accra, Ghana, and I urge all of you to find time while you are here to discover a bit of Ghana, including our cultural and historical sites. I thank you for your attention.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we begin our statements. Please allow me to bring to the podium the Deputy Chairman, African Union Commission, Her Excellency Dr. Monique Nzanza Naganwa.
Your Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana and our host. Excellence, Azari Assoumani, Président de l'Union des Comores et Président en exercice de l'Union africaine. Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government and their representatives, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, who is unavoidably absent, I bring you warm greetings from the African Union Commission in commemoration of a day that sets the pace for a unified purpose and our unwavering commitment to the cause of justice as a people. A special appreciation goes to the government of Ghana for bringing this dire matter to the forefront, and in addition, for hosting this conference as a step forward towards a more proactive future for Africa. I can't help but commend your support to this noble cause, which demands a profound sense of purpose and unwavering commitment to the cause of justice. I stand before you today as we gather here in Accra, Ghana, to make history on the occasion to build a united front in advancing the cause of justice and the payment of reparations to Africans. It's important to note that this is not just a conference, rather a global movement with a soul at the front lines to bring this fundamental change in redeeming Africa and all people of African descent. Africa, the cradle of humanity, has borne the brunt of history's injustices and endured the ramifications of a past marked by slavery, colonialization, and exploitation. I wish to take a few seconds to commend the troop that has presented today, this morning, and only shared a glimpse of what it looked like during those moments. For centuries, the African continent and its people have faced insurmountable challenges and various forms of discrimination on many fronts. We must acknowledge that these injustices have had a long-term impact, the consequences of which are still felt today. The demand for reparations is not an attempt to rewrite history or to continue the cycle of victimization. It's a call to recognize the undeniable truth and right the wrongs that have gone unpunished for far too long and continues to thrive presently. Reparations demonstrate our shared commitment to justice, reconciliation, and healing. We gather here today with a sense of unity that transcends geographical borders and ideologies. Our shared belief is in the necessity of reparations, and it is binding us together. And it's only through our collective strength that we are and we will be able to put what we believe into action. We are here today to chart a new course, one that will pave the way for a better, more equitable world, devoid of keeping Africa under subjugation while other parts of the world thrive. Reparations are more than merely financial transactions. They are a moral and ethical obligation. They represent our acknowledgement of past wrongs and, more importantly, the resolve to make amends. It's a tangible step toward justice, equality, and healing for those who have suffered and continue to suffer the consequences of historical injustices. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to build this united front, I reiterate the importance of working together in a collaborative and cooperative spirit. The cause of justice knows no bounds. And only by working together can we overcome the challenges that lie ahead. In the pursuit of reparations, it is also our duty to address the lingering structural inequalities. It's about equality and quality of education, with the conscious effort to work together towards the positive transformation of the psyche of Africans. Quality of access to healthcare, economic empowerment, and the reconstruction of our dignity as a people. Our vision is to make Africa an influential global player in a more equitable world. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I urge us to be champions of this cause, mindful of the fact that this is just the beginning. We are gathered here to learn from one another and to form strong networks that will allow us to return to our respective communities, nations, and organizations with a renewed sense of purpose. As we champion this noble cause, let us be the change agents, the voices that will not be silenced, and the advocates for justice. In conclusion, allow me to reaffirm our collective commitment to the cause of justice and reparations. Together, we shall build a united front that will not rest until the ideals of justice, equity, and racial healing are achieved. Let us be the architects of a brighter future for all Africans and indeed for all of humanity. I thank you for your kind attention.
The pursuit of justice knows no bounds, and only with a united front can we demand our share of dignity and well-being. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union. We're ever so grateful to Your Excellency Dr. Monique and Sanza Naganwa. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by the former Vice President of the Republic of Costa Rica. Would you please make welcome Dr. Epsi Alejandra Campbell-Barr. Joining us today with great solidarity is the Open Society Foundations. Here to speak on behalf of the Managing Director, please make welcome Jasmine Mickens.
Good morning. Greetings. I would like to first welcome His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. It's a pleasure to have your leadership. I also like to say thank you and welcome and greetings to His Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of Comoros and the Chair of the African Union. Your leadership on this matter has been phenomenal and incredible. Greetings to the other distinguished delegates in the room and all of the distinguished dignitaries. On behalf of Open Society, I would like to thank you all for being here, and it's our honor to be one of the supporters of this event and building out this global movement. We know that the transatlantic slave trade tested the will and the resilience of men, women, and children as they endured a series of abuses from invasion, captivity, passage in a slave ship, sale, and torturous enslavement that will last for generations. Over the course of the slave trade, approximately 300 million Africans were permanently severed from their homes, family, culture, language, and history. We know that the wealth accumulated during the slave trade and the forced labor camps gave rise to industries, institutions, and family estates, many of which still thrive to this day in the global north. Similarly, sacred relics and architecture built by our ancestors can be found in the museums and many national landmarks globally. It is this gap between the history and how it continues to shape the world that is the bridge between the past and the present, but also the road to repair. We are truly standing in a historic moment. For the first time, reparations is an issue that has met its moment. Globally, we have activists, heads of state, and leaders who are behind the issue of global reparations, and we're seeing the global African community come together for the first time. This is just the beginning. I would like to give a special thanks again to His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and Ambassador Tum Amoa, who have been incredible in organizing this moment and the global movement ahead of us. I would also like to say thank you to the many activists in this room whose work will be uplifted on the panels that will come in the coming days. And I just want to leave us with one word, that our power is truly in our unity. The people in this room are a reflection of our unity, our resistance, and our resilience. But the most important part is that we are not just here to speak and share words of inspiration, but that we leave with collective action and we take serious what this movement requires to be sustained. So again, on behalf of Open Society, I thank you all for your commitment, for your presence, and I'm even more excited about what we will do in the days to come. Thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jasmine Mickens from Open Society. Congratulations. Thank you very much for your partnership. Thank you, Jasmine. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure that you've each been paying attention to the information, the influence of arts and culture on who we are, and what we fight for. So my performer who's coming on stage is nobody, I would say he's somebody who indeed has been the voice of change, the voice of social impact. And I don't want to believe that there's anybody in this room that doesn't know him. Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, please welcome 3-time Grammy-nominated and, of course, global social impact advocate, Ghana's Rocky Dawuni.
Yeah. How you all feeling? Let me hear how you all feeling. Today we are here to manifest the new Africa. So I will ask for all of us to stand up. Please, let's stand up. Yes. We're here to manifest a great energy, a positive beginning for this continent. So what we do here is important. All right. Let me see your hands together. Let's show your hands, people. Yes. I wanna go high up into the air. Our leaders can say, take you to the domination. I wanna go high up into the air. I wanna take you to the domination. Can't you see? Can't we talk about the version? We dance to heal, we dance for free in this nation. Oh, yeah. He was so full, no drawers of water. Music plays on and on. Leave your burdens, leave your sorrows outside the door. Open summer we got to keep. So I'm about to talk you so we talk you so. We ride on the river. We jump with the music. We jump with the rhythm. So I'm about to eat you so we eat you so. We ride on the rainbow. Jump with the rhythm. So I wanna go high up into the air. I wanna take you to the domination. So I wanna go high into the air. I wanna take you to the domination, nation. Can't you see? Can't we talk about this version? We dance to heal, we dance to free. talking so. Ride on the river. Tell me without music. Tell me without music. Oh my God, we hit the soul, we hit the soul. Ride on the river. All right, right now, madam, let me see your hands in the air. We are here to manifest the new energy of Africa. The new energy of Africa right now, people. Raise your hands, everybody. Let me see your hands wave in the air.
Sacrifice.
I know it was worth the price, for I did it for you. I dedicate this song to you, my beautiful people. My beautiful people, come and sing along, yeah. Here I come with the love of beautiful people. My beautiful people. For you, you know that love is the language to free us from every bondage. So I sacrifice for you. I dedicate this song to you, my beautiful people. My beautiful people, come and sing along, yeah. Here I come with the love of beautiful people, my beautiful people. For you, you know that love is the language to free us from every bondage. So I sacrifice for you. I dedicate this song to you, my beautiful people. Oh, African people, come and sing along, yeah. Here I come with the love of beautiful people, my beautiful people. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the Gold Coast, Ghana, the center of the world, the South Africa. Baby, Thank you very much. God bless Africa. God bless us all. I think I'm done, right? Unless I have one more song for Ghana.
We will bring you back for that last one. But for now, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. God bless us all.
A voice for all seasons, the one, the only, Rocky Dawuni. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. And that Dadianuma is that mythical bird which is now the aeroplane which has brought sons and daughters, friends as well as well-wishers of global Africa together as we dwell on a very important topic of reparations. We say Akwaba and you say Ya. Akwaba. Ya. We now move on with statements by our heads of state and government. Kickstarting, we would like to receive the Minister for War Veterans and Rights Holders of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. Make welcome His Excellency, Laid Rabiga.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة رئيس جمهورية غانا السيد نانا آدو دانكوا أكوفو آدو. فخامة رئيس اتحاد القمر، رئيس الاتحاد الإفريقي أزالي الزماني، السادة أصحاب الفخامة، رؤساء الدول والحكومات، السيدات والسادة ممثلي الهيئات الإفريقية والدولية، السيدات والسادة أصحاب المعالي والسعادة من الوزراء وأعضاء السلطة الدبلوماسية.
We are appreciating and greeting all ministers, members of media, fraternity. I greet you by saying greetings to all. I want specifically to express my gratefulness and gratitude to the Republic of Ghana for hosting this international conference with regard to fronting and also having unified front towards the benefit of Africa. And we are also working towards uniting the African Union in order to achieve strategic goals which does not limit itself to geography or any other boundaries. We are working towards the benefit of African nations. I also seize this opportunity in order to express our profound gratitude towards all the efforts that has been exhibited, which number of people, including sons and daughters of African continent. Here, we remember all the souls of all the departed souls of Africa, especially those that we have registered their names with gold, those who died in honoring their country. The African fraternity, and for that matter, there are so many challenges that has to do with social, economic, that African community are confronted with. And also the African people have confronted a lot of challenges, and still they are representing the unified front in facing the challenges of the world. And African continent is also working towards unity. The challenges that globalization has brought, especially with regard to limitation of political advancement, and also challenges of culture, which has drive African towards backwards, and also the African Union is working towards the sustainability of development and also in placing Africa among the advanced nations. There is no solution towards current problems without the establishment of unified front towards development of Africa. Remembering the intelligence of common African goal, it leads to exposing the challenges and also the relationship between Algeria and Africa. And this also ratifies that Algeria continues to represent the history of Africa, and it is also fighting in order to liberate Africa from slavery and also colonization. The Algerian Revolution has also led to the liberation of Africa, and it is also enforcing and also ensuring the diplomatic effort that Algeria has given and continue to give Africa in order to liberalize and also liberate Africa. And we are also concerned about the role the Ghanaian government is also playing, particularly from the time of Kwame Nkrumah. And what we are trying to say here is that we want the liberation to continue in order to continue, and discussion should continue with regard to different issues that will relate to the harmonization of opinions that can lead to the unity of Africa. And we are also trying to suggest that African should work towards unity. We must also try to make sure justice will be enforced. And this is also helping us to work towards the aspiration of African Union. We are aware of what colonization, slavery, and also other bad things has created towards Africa. And we know that African community and people were denied from their land and also their resources, and which led to the slavery of African people. And these are some of the offenses and crimes that cannot be shielded, especially now that we are able to recognize those who have committed those crimes. Your Excellency, invited guests, the movement of colonization and also the orientation that has been given to the African people, and also all the offenses and the crimes that has been committed against Africa, be it slavery, colonization, and bad ideologies that has also denied Africa from thinking towards advancement. All these were created as a result of colonization, and these crimes were committed against weak communities. And the rule, and these rules, and also colonization has denied us democracy. And the modern democracy also must be considered so that it will not sideline whatever Africa is supposed to get. And Algeria is happy to work with all the African partners, especially the continent that has suffered a lot from bloodshedding, colonization, and slavery. And we are working towards establishing our sovereignty. And even Algerian people has also confronted with so many crimes. And our aim and the aim of all these crimes is to overcome and also colonize Algeria. And Algeria, since 1930s, Algeria has been confronted with colonization since 1930, and it has continued to also face challenges as a result of those. And there are so many laws that conflict with the international laws. And those laws are referred to as special laws that are not in favor of humanity and also Africa. And there are so many killings that has happened to the people of Africa, and particularly Algerians. And there are so many, resources of Algeria that has been taken away. And as a result of that, Algeria has faced historical problems and crimes. And we also realize that these crimes has gone beyond Algeria and has affected even the Sahara that is surrounded Algeria. And there are so many things that has been applied. So many means were applied. And there are so many experiences that people of Algeria has gone through. And Algeria will continue to face all these challenges and to fight all these crimes in order to make sure it will develop in its culture and also development. And also the colonization did not limit itself by taking away the land of Algeria, but it also denied Algerians from their own resources. And also there are so many migrants that have been migrated from Algeria, and they have also faced a lot of challenges. And as a result of that, there were so many demonstrations carried out by people of Algeria in order to face all these discrimination and also these crimes. And there are so many people that have been migrated. More than 11,000 Algerians were sacked from their own countries. These crimes, which I have just mentioned, has left so many challenges, and it has also impacted negatively. It continues also to affect communities. I want to affirm that all these crimes can never be forgotten. It will also continue to be in our mind, which also replicates whatever has happened, and that is also indicates the strives of Algerian people. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, ladies and gentlemen, we can tell you that Algeria has really faced a lot of challenges. It has continued to face all these challenges, especially these challenges came as a result of colonialism and slavery, and we are now facing challenges out of our resources that has been taken away. We are facing challenges that has to do with our health and also our resources. And there are so many laws and legislations that has been decided on in order to fight all this injustice. And we are trying to be healed from this. And there are so many financial means that has been denied. And we are also trying to face all this very heinous crime that has been placed on the people of Africa as a result of colonialism. Algeria has continued, especially by what is being championed by the head of state and also the president, in order to be healed from all these challenges and all these crimes. And we are trying to bring back all people that have been sent away from Algeria, and also we are trying to make sure we fortified our country from all these conscientization and negative orientation that has been given to our people during the colonization. Algeria is trying to be healed from all these crimes, and for that matter, it has taken a new pace that will lead Algeria to where it wants. And we are trying to put across a legislation that will defend Algeria from all these problems. And we have assembled academicians, and we have also specified special community in order to read and also study all the crimes that people of Algeria have faced. And we are quite conscious, very conscious, that we are going to study and also try to heal people of Algeria from all these crimes. And we want recognition of these crimes so that we will have fair justice, equal justice, and for those who have committed this crime, they must also recognize those crimes that have been committed. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, ladies and gentlemen, we must be aware that Algeria has indeed faced all these problems, and it is seeking reparation for all the crimes and also all the denial of its resources in order to make sure it will heal totally from these crimes. And it will also want to place responsibility upon all those who have denied Algeria from its resources. Algeria is carried away all the effort to make sure African community will benefit, and Algeria is also trying and working very hard to make sure all the reparation will be given at the level of continent and also at the global level. And all the reparations are supposed to be given to people of Algeria, and all this that we are saying, Algeria is making effort in order to make sure it benefits economically and also it will fight all the crimes that the people of Algeria are faced. Algeria has also carried away and also has recognized that the countries should not only concentrate on the reparation, but it must also consider ways that will lead to the sustainability of development, be it economic, social, or political. And also, it is also working towards how the debt release in order to make sure reparation is given. It is also going to force imperialist states to pay back all the, the resources that has been taken away. And also it is calling upon the Security Council to take a critical position towards bringing back all the resources so that the people, and for that people, African masses and African people will regain its, its resources. And we are also working together with all the African countries in order to study all the files of those who committed heinous crimes against Africa, and so that we can work together to make sure Africa will develop and also will develop common front of Africa so that it will lead to the development of the continent, especially with regard to this topic. In conclusion, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, here we are talking about all the crimes that have been committed by colonialists in Africa towards our people. Today we are witnessing a different type of crime which the Zionists are creating today against Palestinians. And there are so many women and children that are facing all these problems. And we have also realized the blockade that these people are facing, which is against the international laws. These crimes against children and women, every person in the world and all people of the world have witnessed it. And people of Algeria are standing beside people of Palestine and is calling upon all the international organizations and also countries across the world to come together and fight these crimes so that they will stop all these crimes against people of Palestine in order to bring back the history of people, in order to make sure there will be liberty and also freedom for all people. Algeria is defending people of Palestine, and that defense comes out of the revolution of 1st November carried out in Algeria. And we are calling upon all the Africa to leave. May the continent and also the Algerian people live, and may God protect it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
We're grateful to you, Your Excellency.
يعني وزير الكبير من الدولة أنغوليا، نحن أن نرحب الوزير ليطلع هنا
Presidente della Repubblica Dominicana, السوماني،
نائب مدير المفوضية الاتحاد الأفريقي، أصحاب السعادة السيد استادو إرفارو،
e meus senhores, transmito as calorosas saudações de Sua Excelência João Lourenço, Presidente da República de Angola, e em seu nome agradeço o convite dirigido à República de Angola para fazer parte desta sessão.
We are happy to have been invited to participate in this event, and we want to congratulate President Nana Akufo-Addo as well as the African Union for this initiative. Africa and humanity generally has been very concerned, and the history of humanity has witnessed the worst phases of its existence through colonization, where people have occupied territories of others, leading to the plundering of natural resources, and in the process they impose strange or foreign cultures which compromised the lives of the people. Colonization stole from African peoples their living conditions and also transformed African peoples into objects. Agostinho Neto, the founder of the Angola nation, declared in 1968, he declared that Africa was like an immobilized body which everybody was coming to plunder. But the history of colonization as well as slavery are amongst the major crimes that the African continent suffered. My country, Angola, was colonized for 5 centuries. And for those 500 years, Angolans were subjugated. Our ancestors defended themselves nonetheless with very obsolete means they defended themselves against this colonization. Our resources were plundered and we had no voices. We had no means to decide our own future. It is therefore important for us to take a second look at our capacities as human beings. Our independence was not offered us. It was through the struggle that the Angolan people undertook. And we had all other African peoples fighting through us. We lost our brothers and sisters. And today we are independent. We've been independent for 48 years. We now have our destiny in our own hands. We nonetheless cannot forget the past, and we cannot ignore the harmful effect of colonization on our people. Unfortunately, history evolves. It is not static in the past. Through its consequences and its effects, it is felt today. We as Africans, we will not be here if there had not been colonialism and slavery. We would not have been at this stage. Our circumstances would have been much better today. And colonization and slavery were weapons used to destroy our people. And they also put in place immaterial weapons, and the consequences were losses of human lives. And this cannot be quantified, such losses. And we would have the necessary compensation to repair what was destroyed by colonialism. we are talking about reparations for African countries, and that is the reason why the Angolan peoples have come, are represented here at this conference, whose theme is to build and have a united front for reparations for all African peoples. Angola is attending this conference to look at these causes. It's a matter of justice based on our history, also for remembrance of our past. It is important for us, in this case, to have an agenda which would enable us to make our voices heard, to have a united voice as Africans, a voice of justice. What we're going to start here on this land of Kwame Nkrumah, one of the founding founders of Pan-Africanism, and this through our agenda on reparations, what we're going to do here should guarantee us a history that will be well known to the new generations in order for us not to have a repetition. Colonization and slavery are actions that should be avoided. Otherwise, we will be reduced once again to a condition of objects, and therefore we should have a united voice, and it should be a united Africa. Thank you for your kind attention.
Excelência Adao Francisco Correa de Almeida, obrigada. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Republic of Kenya, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, please welcome the Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi.
Your Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, Your Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of Comoros and AU Chairperson, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Dr. Monique, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the onset, permit me to convey apologies from His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, who was very keen to participate in this conference, but unable to do so due to prior engagements. Further, I take this opportunity to express my delight for the warm reception and generous hospitality extended to me and my delegation since our arrival in this beautiful city of Accra. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this historical conference affords us the opportunity to reflect on the many milestones we have achieved together, nationally and collectively. Not long ago, we stood unmoved in the face of adversity to confront the servitude of colonial subjugation and racial discrimination fearlessly. With singular determination, we reclaimed our dignity, freedoms, and right to shape our future. Thank you, Ghana. In Kiswahili, asante sana, Ghana, for being a trailblazer on Africa independence. As a people of African descent, we now have an inordinate opportunity to collectively craft effective strategies for building a united front through strengthening collaboration amongst African nations, the African in diaspora, and other key stakeholders to advance the cause of justice and reparations for Africans that is long overdue. In our case, thousands of Kenyans were executed, many subjected to untold torture and all forms of inhumane treatment and abuse at the hands of the colonial administration. I call upon each of us to cast our minds and hearts to the African men and women who in their numbers were seized from their homes and nations to endure most vicious and dehumanizing conditions. For generations, our ancestors, kith and kin, toiled in plantations and factories, wilted and died to enrich the captors and their criminal associates. It's worth recalling that the African descendants who left in chains or born by those heroes have today become an inspiration of their countries of origin, and indeed the entire world. In leaders like Martin Luther King, W.E. Du Bois, Thurgood Marshall, Jesse Jackson, and many others, they have produced a soaring moral and political leadership that has freed millions of the downtrodden and oppressed. Their learning, artistry, and unique spirit of hope in the face of oppression uplift and inspire humanity. Whereas no amount of money would heal the atrocities committed to our peoples, it is time we set up legal and moral grounds for reparations by exploring different models of reparatory justice to ensure that timely compensation timelessly. I therefore make a clarion call on our academia to help us dig the truth through in-depth research. This will aid us move away from calibrated literature that perpetuates untruth. Kenya supports the effort to establish a sustainable action plan for reparatory justice process for the victims of historical and colonial injustices in the spirit of a united Africa. We therefore call for unity and collaboration among Africans, peoples of African descent in the diaspora, and other stakeholders through the establishment of an African-Caribbean joint mechanism on reparatory justice. Kenya further welcomes the establishment of an African Committee of Experts on reparations for the purpose of developing a common African position on reparations. Further, Kenya avails itself to offer its expertise to ensure sustainable reparatory justice. In the spirit of togetherness, I urge all of us, brothers and sisters, that we work, invest, develop, and deal with global challenges together as one people. We must strive to speak in one voice because together we are strong and weak when divided. Our voices need to be heard and must be heard. As I conclude, may I urge each of us to work together, condemn in the strongest terms possible the colonial injustices and modern-day slavery as we pursue reparations for fellow Africans who fought for independence by building a united front to advance the cause of justice and the payment of reparations to Africans. Once again to Ghana, asante sana. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, thank you very much for your statement. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the statement from the Prime Minister of the Republic of Burundi. Please welcome His Excellency Gervais Ndirakobucha.
Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo Dankwa, President of the Republic of Ghana, Excellency Mr. Azali Asman, President of the Comoros Union and current Chair of the African Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of Delegations, Madam Vice President of the African Union Commission, distinguished and invited guests, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to be before this August Assembly to make this speech. First of all, I'd like to thank God who has enabled us meet here in this beautiful capital, Ghana. On behalf of the people of Burundi and on my own behalf, I'd like to thank the Ghanaian authorities for the warm welcome given to our delegation since our arrival in this capital. I take this opportunity to convey to you the warm greetings from the heads of state, His Excellency Ndayishimiye, and from the entire people of Burundi. Excellencies, heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this conference, which is building a united front to advance the cause of justice and the payment of reparations to Africans, is of interest to us as Africans in general and the African Union. Because we are supposed to unite to advance the cause of justice and the payment of reparations to Africans. The African continent has experienced a lot of challenges over various periods. It has had a painful past, and we are continuing to work towards the growth of Africa in the 21st century. These crimes that were committed against the African people are atrocious, including slavery, colonization, and racism in South Africa, which has left its marks culturally, economically, and socially in the country, South Africa. Your Excellencies, heads of state, ladies and gentlemen, my country, Burundi, has been spared from slavery after having stood up against slavery. There was a war against a king at the time during the slave period. If we have been spared from this abominable crime, we have never been safe from its consequences. If we are facing, together with the other African people, the hardships caused by this slavery, and we need to add that of colonization. We should always remember our valiant heroes who were deported and faced inhuman treatment, beaten and hanged publicly. We should also be aware that we are the product of a painful past characterized by abominations against our forefathers. The African Union, Africans were considered as animals in American plantations during the slave trade period. And also during the colonization, we have been subjugated to several atrocities. People have committed themselves to the abolishment of slavery in Africa. My homage goes to the heroes of independence, which have enabled African countries to liberate themselves from the shackles of the colonizers. and enabled us to take care of our own destiny. Countries that have been victims of slave trade, colonization, have a history that should not be forgotten, because their crimes have been odious and which have reduced the dignity of humanity and Africans in particular. We should look ourselves in the face and tell ourselves that colonization, slavery, apartheid, and have been practices that use the law of the jungle, where the stronger animals eat up the weaker ones. This moment is an opportunity for us to remember what happened in the past and also underscore the fact that we should not only remember slavery, colonization, apartheid as events that have characterized the continent, but also as circumstances that have deprived Africa of its human, economic, and cultural resources. Africans resigned themselves to this indignity, abandoning her culture, religion, and has been obliged to forget her heroes. And also Africans have learned to imitate their masters of colonization. The African has forgotten to be himself, and if we do not try to look at most of the problems that are hindering the development of our continent due to this unfortunate history behind us, with a very negative impact on our countries, including migration and deterioration of the social fabric, ethnic conflict experienced by our continent, and so on and so forth. Your Excellencies, heads of state and heads of government, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, talking more specifically about the topic of today, which focuses on reparations, the first stage should be to recognize these abominations that have been committed against humanity, abominations that have been committed against humanity and Africans in particular. This has to be recognized by the United Nations. So we should together say, never should that happen. So the world should compensate countries that have been victims of these abominable crimes within the history of humanity. And for this reason, I encourage countries that have been authors of these abominable crimes to ask for pardon and surrender the cultural heritage that they have stolen from Africa. So these things, when returned, will constitute elements of interest for tourism. Children have been separated from their mothers, and we are asking the powers that be to help these people to come back to their roots. Your Excellencies, heads of states, heads of government, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Talking about Burundi, I can say that we have experienced colonization that we got up and resisted. It is our king who was obliged to accept the authority of the colonizers, and colonizers who imposed a penalty of a huge penalty on them. Imagine what this wealth could have generated. Those who replaced them after the Second World War continue along the same lines by causing division, divide and rule policy. Burundi and the region of the Great Lakes in Africa continue to pay a lot because of these tasks based on the ethnic interests. Burundians have recovered their dignity over the entire national territory, and we are concerned not only by the development of our country, but also by the security in the sub-region and in Africa as a whole through the contribution of our defense forces that are there for peacekeeping. The youth should be the drivers of integral development of our countries. Hence, there are projects for empowerment of youth and women undertaken, and results that have been obtained are promising. Our vision is for Burundi to be part of the emerging countries in between now and 2040, and to become a developed country by 2060. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, distinguished invited guests, I would like to call upon the African people to fight against neocolonialism by working assiduously to ensure economic independence for our countries. And for this, our youth should be well educated and initiated into the sense of good patriotism and to have the African identity. This is a struggle, it should be a struggle against colonialism and all forms of injustice committed against our populations. This requires that all Africans should talk with the same voice and get united. I'm happy that the theme chosen for this conference is a part of this logic. Before I conclude, I'd like to insist on the fact that as Africans we are called upon to support each other mutually in order to advance the cause of justice and ensure the payment of reparations. This requires that we should be determined to respect ourselves and also to work together with our neighbors and brothers in the continent. Concerning the past, the painful past that we have experienced, we are ready to pardon, but beyond that, it's important that mechanisms be put in place to repair, to provide reparations to African countries due to the crimes that have been committed against it, and considering that our dignity and rights have been trampled upon. Excellencies, heads of government, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like, on behalf of the President of the Republic of Burundi and the people of Burundi, and on my own behalf, I would like to reiterate my sincere gratitude to Your Excellency, President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, and to all the Ghanaian people for the legendary hospitality that has been given us since our arrival in this beautiful capital, Accra. I would like to thank also the organizers of this conference, while hoping that at the end of this conference, solidarity in defending the African cause will be reformulated to inspire the victims and descendants of slavery so that they can join us in our common combat. May God bless Africa, and long live Africa united in its search for justice and payment of reparations to Africans. Thank you.
Gavis Indra Kubuka. And now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome the Minister for Justice of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Ronald Lamola.
His His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, the President of the Union of Comoros and also of the African Union, all other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to be here today on behalf of the South African President, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, who could not make it here today, but has conveyed his wishes and gratitude to the President of the Republic of Ghana for inviting him here and also the Republic of South Africa. I'm proud because this is the land of our founding father, Kwame Nkrumah, where you have invited us to reshape the future of our continent. Under the theme and under the permission of the African Union, the theme of the conference adopted by the ordinary session of the Assembly on the 18th and 19th of February, which were expected to address. South Africa fully supports reparatory justice, which is the center of our human rights laws, which are guaranteed in our Constitution. As His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa said, and I quote, in the South African Constitution, we affirm that the South Africans were called upon to build a society based on social justice and fundamental human rights with a view of correcting the injustices of our past. It is a clarion call by our Constitution to correct the injustices of the past in our country in South Africa under the history of apartheid, but also in the African continent, which was colonized. It is against this background that South Africa fully supports efforts to correct the wrongs of the past and institutionalize slavery, whose impact relegated millions of our people in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Middle East to a legacy of poverty and underdevelopment. South Africa urges all participants to this international conference to collectively adopt a unified approach to address the legacy of slavery and reparations. In this context, it may be ideal for the outcome of this reparation conference to be incorporated and to be brought under the umbrella of the African Union Decade of African Roots and Diaspora. The AU Assembly of Heads of States endorsed the convening of the 9th Pan-African Congress as part of the African Union Decade, to also be held in Lome in Togo. In this respect, we would like to mention that Angola, Namibia, and South Africa form part of the high-level committee for the Southern African region. As South Africa, we have offered to host the Southern African Regional Preparatory Meeting from the 4th to the 5th of December 2023 in Pretoria. I'm mentioning this Southern African Regional Conference as it is one of the 6 regional conferences to be held in preparation for the 9th Pan-African Congress. Mr. President, in South Africa, it is extremely critical that all these processes should succeed. It is time for Africa to ensure that we are inclusive, especially with respect to the 6th region. Our brothers and sisters in the 6th region are part and parcel of the African Union. As per the AU Assembly Heads of State, we call strongly for the African Union Commission to ensure that the representation of the 6th region is institutionalized. The modalities of how this institutionalization happens have to be done and made during the process of this decade. I am glad that I can see most of the participants from the 6th region here in your conference. Your Excellencies, across the continent, we need to strengthen partnerships between governments and all segments of civil society, in particular women, youth, and the private sector, to strengthen solidarity and cohesion among all the peoples in Africa and the diaspora. We equally need to strengthen institutions that support restorative justice, healing, reparation, unity, solidarity, and social cohesion. As South Africa will want to see all parties acknowledging that slavery, the slave trade, and transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, genocide, and apartheid remain crimes against humanity in line with the Durban Declaration and the Program of Action. As we address the legacy of slavery, we must equally combat racism, racial discrimination against marginalized groups, and make Africa a prosperous and a developed continent, which will be ideal for African people from all walks of life to live free from conflicts. At the international level, South Africa hosted the World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Related Intolerance in 2001. In the conference, the outcome of the conference they thought named the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. Since the follow-up and implementation of the Durban Declaration, we need to recognize that Permanent Forum of Peoples of African Descent was established at the level of the United Nations. At the UN level, there is another decade that was declared. South Africa also follows that process very closely. In the conference outcomes, in the concept paper, we make reference to opportunities for experience sharing, greater networking, synergism, and capacity building amongst the participants. Synergism should also be looked at the national, regional, and international levels. In other words, it will be self-defeating to declare the decades at the African Union level, whose timelines are different from the decade declared by the Permanent Forum of the People of African Descent. The alignment of these processes speaks directly to the importance of coherence both at the level of the capitals and the Human Rights Councils in Geneva, the UN General Assembly in New York. We also have to ensure that reparations, Mr. President, the African continent is not going to the world as beggars. We are owners of natural resources, which are now enabling the world for artificial intelligence and also other great innovations, including electric cars. This will not happen in the world without them getting these resources from the African continent. South Africa has started an initiative on strategic minerals. We believe this is an important part for foreign direct investment to enable us to have jobs, beneficiate in our continent, so that we do not become exporters of jobs, but they are done in our own African continent, powered by our own natural resources. This conference will also enable us to be able to protect these natural resources so that the jobs are created here in the African continent. When we export what has become finished products. We can't continue to export jobs to the capitals of the world. We must enable this reparative conference to help us with regards to many issues even related to the foreign direct investment in the continent that will enable us to change the trajectory of history. The kids of the African continent must be working next to their homes, a stone's throw away from their parents and a stone's throw away from their forefathers. The African Free Trade Initiative, which is also a stone's thrown away from where we are today, hosted by you, the government of Ghana, should also enable us to ensure interlinkages, economic beneficiation, and also collaboration amongst the African continent. This must also increase the economic growth of the African continent, but also must enable us to create jobs in this continent so that our kids are not beggars. We are not going to the world with a basket of begging, but as people who have got natural resources, who are well-resourced, who wants people to come into our countries to help us to invest so that we are able to change the trajectory of the kids of Africa. In the next 10 years, we must speaking of a different Africa in terms of the economy and in terms of job creation. That is the future that this reparative conference must enable us to change this trajectory. In conclusion, South Africa believes that reparative justice for Africans and people of African descent can be best served through redressing the inequalities arising from the legacy of slavery, the slave trade, and the transatlantic slave trade. We look forward to listening to the discussions on the proposed strategies going forward. In the 2001 conference, adopted measures such as the following: debt relief, poverty reduction strategies, promotion of foreign direct investment, agriculture, and addressing issues of food security. Since then, we have seen regression in the conditions for African people and of African descent due to COVID-19, during which we saw the developed North prioritizing itself over the developed South. It is in this context that we should look closely at African excellencies. There is historical evidence that Africans and these people of African descent, especially black women, have excelled in scientific areas and sports. African women in particular, they plow across the African continent. We are here standing in front of you because of the food that they plow, that we eat every day. From South Africa, we can make the claim that we are the 2023 Rugby World Cup champions. We have short distance and long marathon champions from Kenya. The people of Ghana are well known for their soccer exploits in the world. Nigeria, Egypt, you are amongst the best. We can also do it in the economy and also in the jobs for the children of our continent. We have excelled in arts, culture, and filmmaking. We need to build on our successes without letting go of the claims, pains, because growth is part of healing. The next generation of leaders must have a clear program of action. We owe it to them, and we owe it to future generations. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for your words and, of course, your calls to action. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to bring to the podium the Chair, All-Party Parliamentary Group for African Reparations, Her Excellency Belle Ribeiro Addy, MP.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana, our gracious host, Your Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of Comoros and the AU Chairperson, Your Excellencies, Heads of State, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm proud to chair the All-Party Parliamentary Group for African Reparations in the Parliament of the United Kingdom. We are 14 members of Parliament from all political parties calling for policy on reparations in a country commonly known as the Mother of Empire. We say that reparative justice cannot be financial alone, so we work across three different strands. We insist that there must be a form of community reparations, and that begins with an apology, recognizing that peoples of African descent are equals. That goes to look at things such as environmental reparations, health reparations, educational reparations, and we look also to restitution of artifacts and archives, because we believe that finders keepers has never been a plausible argument, and that theft is theft, and that reparations should begin with the return of the loot of empire. We also look at the decolonization of aid and international structures, because we see some of these as a form of neo-colonialism. Many of our aid organizations now are private bodies, and the fact of the matter is, unless they are working quite specifically to end dependency on aid, they are simply part of the problem, because the aid sector has become a sector, just that. And the reality is that with all sectors, thank you, and the reality is that with all sectors, they require supply and demand, and that means keeping people in Africa and the Caribbean subject and continually in poverty. And it's no small feat that we all meet here 30 years after the Abuja Declaration, a Pan-Africanist conference that accepted our common struggle as peoples of African descent. And it's important that we continue to stand in that unity. It is important that we dispel the lies that as people, we should be pleased with the progress that we have made. You hear various things called towards the fact that we once had a black American president, and that we should be pleased because we have more black billionaires. Yet right across the world, people that look like us continue to starve and suffer, and this is not by accident, but by design. All of our oppressions are a direct result of these historical injustices, and we need to accept the fact that we are not free until we are all free. Now, I'm here because my country has a moral duty to make amends for the trafficking, enslavement, and colonization, and continued exploitation and degradation of peoples of African descent. Whilst we could never fully recompense for the harm that is done, if we do not start to make amends, we are simply continuing one of the greatest crimes in human history. Now, we are often told that slavery was 400 years ago, so why are we continuing to speak about it today and continuing to berate people for it today? But we have to remember that this is not when slavery ended. And when slavery ended, the whips and the metal shackles were replaced with other constraints. They were replaced with colonialism, neocolonialism, a UN Security Council which continuously ignores the views of other African nations, crippling debts, IMF, punitive and exploitative trade, the continued theft and disregard, institutional racism and poverty. I could go on. And when I call for reparations, I'm often asked to be grateful that my country, Britain, ended the slave trade. But what many people do not know is that in order to end the slave trade, the UK took out the largest loan in its history. And this particular loan we did not pay off until 2015. This means that I, the descendant of enslaved peoples taken to Brazil and the Caribbean, and the descendant of colonized peoples of Ghana through taxation myself, paid towards the slave owners and not the enslaved. So, the united front that we speak of today should include the diaspora, and I would remind those who are representing Commonwealth nations here today that citizens of your countries studying, working or living in the UK currently have the right to vote in UK general elections. They could be instrumental in shaping the policy that we hope to create, and we hope that when the time comes we are able to call on them to push their elected representatives. Other than moral arguments for reparations, I often have to make those to my colleagues at home that do not accept the moral arguments. I have to make economic ones to them. I have to show them that African, Caribbean countries are continuously rising, that global power structures are shifting, African economies are rising not because of anything that the West has given them, but because of in spite of what it has done to them. And a few years ago, my country committed what I call a monumental act of self-harm. We underwent Brexit. And meanwhile, whilst we left our largest trading partner, we see the economies in Africa and Caribbean strengthening their links. Now, Rule Britannia no longer rules the waves, and whilst we in my country will never be slaves, we have to understand that nobody else is going to be a slave again either. And in our increasingly globalized world, we need friends, and true friends can only be brought out of equality. And we cannot reach that equality until we repair the harm that is done. So when people say to me that it is radical to ask for reparations, I say to them it was once radical in my country that a woman could even vote, that a black person could even be a member of parliament. Yet here I am, and I can speak from the same building on those green benches that once decreed that people that look like me and you would be owned as chattel, and I can call for reparative justice. So the struggles of today are actually just a mark of our progress tomorrow. But above all, at this conference, I'm here to listen and learn. And whilst I am a daughter of Ghana, I am a British politician. The policy on reparations will be made in parliaments like mine, but I do not believe that Western countries should be dictating how and what is given in reparations. The injustice must stop now, and that means that reparations must be carried out on the terms of those who are most impacted. So it's very, very important, the meetings that you have today and the discussions that you have, because that is the only way that reparative justice can be true. And I'm often asked, when does reparative justice stop, or when do reparations stop? And I say that they stop when their repair is done. There are many different ways in which we can go about repair, and that repair will not end until we have the equality and the equity that peoples of African descent that have been denied for a millennia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reparations end when the repairing is done. MP Bell Ribeiro Addy. And now, ladies and gentlemen, joining us via video, please welcome the Secretary General of CARICOM, of course, our 6th region, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett.
Excellencies, distinguished participants and guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to join the Accra Reparations Conference and bring warm and fraternal greetings from the Caribbean community through this message. This is an important gathering of policymakers, reparations advocates, experts, and civil society activists from Africa, CARICOM, and the wider African diaspora to advance the agenda for reparatory justice. CARICOM heads of government took the historic decision in 2013 to pursue reparations from Europe for the crimes against humanity of native genocide, the transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans, and chattel enslavement in the region. This decision by CARICOM laid the foundation for the rebirth of a global movement for reparatory justice, which has been championed by the strong and focused advocacy of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, chaired by Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, respected Caribbean historian and global thought leader on the imperative to pursue reparations. In CARICOM, our member state, Haiti, was forced to pay for its freedom twice. First, through the successful slave resistance and rebellion, which created the first free republic in the Western Hemisphere in 1804, and the second time through the ignominy of being forced to borrow significant monies from French and American banks to pay reparations to former slave owners for loss of property, being the very former slaves who had already won their freedom in the Haitian Revolution, and repaying this debt well into the 20th century. The crimes committed against humanity are indisputable, and the debt has not been paid for systemic exploitation, extraction of wealth, pain and suffering, apartheid, Jim Crow, and psychological harm, leading to persistent poverty among African-descended people across the globe, and the genocide of native peoples which accompanied colonization. To address this cruel history, the descendants of the victims are due just restitution, compensation, and guarantees of non-repetition. Reparatory justice for the Caribbean community is a priority for our heads of government, who agree that collaboration with Africa on reparations is critical to moving this agenda forward. They have expressed their full support for the convening of the Accra Reparations Conference as a strategic and prime opportunity to forge a common, collaborative agenda between the Caribbean and Africa on reparations. It is in this context that we welcome the update that the African Union is also seeking to develop a common position on reparations and a roadmap for future collaboration with the African diaspora on reparatory justice. The Accra Reparations Conference is, therefore, timely to facilitate dialogue on the reparations agenda. Recent meetings of our heads of government have tabled important proposals for cooperation with the African Union on reparations. They would welcome collaboration to co-sponsor a resolution on reparations at the United Nations to signal our joint commitment and our position that reparatory justice ought to receive due consideration by the United Nations. CARICOM heads of government propose to seek an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice through the United Nations General Assembly. We invite the African Union to join us in this campaign. We are also working to have reparations included on the agenda of key meetings of intergovernmental bodies. We hope that we can establish appropriate mechanisms to facilitate cooperation on reparations between CARICOM and Africa, including the proposed joint CARICOM African Union Committee of Legal Experts. CARICOM welcomes the establishment and the excellent advocacy, consultative, and research initiatives of the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, and looks forward to deepening collaboration with this body, which includes 2 distinguished CARICOM representatives. CARICOM Africa cooperation has increased in several areas following the first CARICOM Africa Summit of Heads of Government held in September 2021. Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forums have been held in Barbados and Guyana in 2022 and 2023, respectively. The African Union ECOSOC study tour on reparations was held in Barbados in July 2023. The Caribbean community has also participated in the Reparations and Racial Healing Summit in August 2022 in Ghana, and welcomes the increased focus on the return of stolen cultural property to both the Caribbean and Africa. I would like to pay special tribute to our host, the government of Ghana, and especially to President Akufo-Addo for his leadership, powerful advocacy, and commitment to the cause of reparatory justice for our respective peoples. Mr. President, your public expressions of support, solidarity, and vision are highly valued by CARICOM. I am confident that the Accra Reparations Conference will be a success under your leadership. Excellencies, distinguished participants, we are at an important inflection point in the global movement for reparatory justice, arguably one of the most important human rights movements of our time. There have been important developments, such as the recent apologies from the government of the Netherlands, the Church of England, and prominent families in the United Kingdom, and the establishment of funding mechanisms for repair programs. We now have legal luminaries, economists, and other experts undertaking the important work of costing the damage and further mapping out the compelling case we have for reparatory justice. It is therefore critical that we seize the moment and ensure that CARICOM, Africa, and others from the diaspora speak with one voice to advance the just and strong call for reparations for the crimes against humanity of native genocide, the transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans, and chattel enslavement, all of which were core aspects of European colonization, which resulted in deeply embedded and continuing structures of racism and discrimination. I wish you all a successful conference and look forward to fruitful outcomes from your deliberations. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The Secretary General of the CARICOM, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Bennett. And now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the writer king who sips communion wine with the goats, Nana Asasi.
Ago, Via. Do you have your left and do you have your right? I need you to keep time for the next 30 seconds. Can we go? Pick it up. Can we go? We will go. We will go. We will go. We will go home. We will go. We will go. We will go. Chart memories sparks along the bloody froth of the Atlantic. I, The writer king who sips communion wine from the calabash, who was there in the beginning when he said, "Let there be light," would have taken all of you on a journey 400 times older than anything we know in the records of history. I did not come to recall the atrocities that made us cry on a Tuesday, such that we had the temerity to bury our heroes on the day when the Creator rested. Mother has been raped too many times. Mother's name has been discolored too many times, taken with too many tongues that it's not even fit to be mentioned anymore at home. And we, her children, royals who are supposed to ride the best of steeds now, have been used as mops in the faces of all the worlds. But keep calm, my neighbors. Keep calm, my friends. Cry softly. And when you step me, earth receive you very gently, for the dawn is here. When a warrior is sure of his footing, he taps, and then he calls the world to bring on its west, for he is ready to take it all up in a single fight. We observed how virgins were broken at noon and sons were born at night, such that all our strengths were rendered impotent. However, Mother says, my children did not come out of my sides. My children came from my heart. And so, just like this was the gateway where most of them were shipped, canned, pushed, kicked out, it is only meet that the same paths through which the hunter was kicked out of the village, when he has found bountiful game, be brought back in like manner. So welcome to the center, Sandazua. Welcome in whichever language you choose to understand best, and note that your seat was meant for you, and it is no accident that we are here in this moment in time. I am simply a child learning the ropes of the world and the ways of my people. I grew up in Ghana. I know no colonial master will never know, and I will hand over a free nation to my ancestors. And so, we who are free must know that there was a price of freedom, a price that really we did not have to pay, for who decides who is free and who is not, and who decides to impose his will on another and brandish him with his own beautiful tattoos. Beautiful tattoos indeed, when our minds have been seared. Wipe your tears. Wipe your tears from your elbow, for thoughts trickle down the mind, down the chin, down the elbow, then it only becomes a matter of the tongue. Tears are tasty. Tears are tasty, but they do not betray the emotions that evoke them. And so tears are tasty when we are happy. Tears are tasty when we are sad. Tears are tasty when we are embarrassed, but tears are tasty now that victory is here. Tears taste sweet. Is the world ready for us? Where do we go from here? It is beautiful to see that the front is united. Divided we stand, united we stand, and we call for justice now. It simply means that if all the world has been circumvented and the center is folded up, how does it hold? And so Adinkra is the crown of it all, in the orbits of all of life, in the beginning, where the Creator chose to place humanity, save some dignity, and serve to the rest of the world. We went out there and gave them the tips which they made into beautiful tips, spikes with which to dig all our wealth and all our self-worth and confidence. Finally, we have found it. For truly, our paths to God, for truly our paths into the future lie within us, and it takes fantastic leadership to hold the torch and lead the way. For all of us cannot walk that straight path riddled with dew at dawn, and so let the elders take the lead. Let the children follow suit. For a child is nothing, it is only the glory of his forebears that the world sees and tolerates in him. However, it is time that in rewriting our stories, we let the world know that we are a people proud of our many tongues that we speak, that they do not divide us, that even in a choir there are different parts to the song, that even when you cook, you bring in different ingredients, and that is the beauty of Africa. For when our walk confused them, they chose to call it dance. When our tongues confused them, they chose to call it holy languages, whichever way it is, we called fire and it came down. Fire that did not consume anybody in the flesh, but fire that consumes our very essence. We never lost it. We never lost our souls. We never lost our essence. We never lost touch with the earth. Ago. 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 Every man owes some debt. Be it a deficit of sleep, be it a deficit of learning, but be it a deficit of truth. For the truth is one. It is just that there are so many ways of telling the truth, and the truth is not as important as the telling it is given. However, this time round, let us not add any coated spices to it. What is good is not good. What is good then is good. And so he to him what is good is not good. My elders, kindly offer him a little alligator pepper. Let him sniff it and see how he likes it. Can we have a rewriting of history? I'm not here to teach a lesson. I am only a child learning the ropes of the world. And so, I have come to learn and know that only a foolish son will point to his father's house with a left finger, and a foolish daughter in that wise will think herself old enough to teach her own mother how to bear children. And so please, I am so proud of Africa with all our potholes. I'm so proud of Africa, of our gutters we're still cleaning. I'm so proud of Africa with my beautiful skin I have to show. I'm so proud of Africa if I have to trek 20 kilometers to new ideas. I am so proud of home. Home. There is no place like home. Home, sweet home. Africa is my home. There is no place like Africa. And so next, when you take a man's name, make sure you take it with some honor. When they take our names, they should take it with some honor. You see how they struggle to take our names because our names are heavy, not only on the tongues, but also on the consciences. It haunts their dreams so much that they are not bold enough to admit it, my brothers and my sisters. A good matter is short. A good matter remains short. A good matter will still be short. Welcome to the crossroads of dreams. Welcome to the place where we have decided that we are this warrior who is sure of his footing. And so whichever way we come, from the four winds and the seven seas, the place where earth and sea and sky meet to share gossip, and we have conferred, our word is one. The truth says, give back unto Africa what belongs to Africa. As you would pay to Caesar his due, you would pay to whoever their due. Give to us what is truly ours. Do not call us by names, for we are not bywords amongst our people. We are this river of life, still passing, like my words which fleet, and all the world will drink and learn wisdom. I could keep this conversation for 32 stanzas, my elders, but I believe they are urgent matters that I have to sit and learn at your feet. If my message is well delivered, would you excuse me for a few minutes? I will be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the extraordinary Nana Asase. Thank you so much. And as we're celebrating Ghana, I would just like to remind you that Ghana's principal export finance institution, the Ghana Exim Bank, is represented here with an exhibition right outside those doors to showcase the finest made in Ghana products in support of the government's SME development agenda. So please do take a look at it, and of course do purchase some Ghanaian souvenirs and take it home. We are coming to the climax of our program this morning into this afternoon. And now I would like to bring onto the stage the Prime Minister of the Republic of Togo, Her Excellency Victoire Tomega Dogbe.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République.
Excellency, President of the Republic of Ghana, Excellency, President of the Union of the Comoros, current President of the African Union, Prime Ministers and Heads of Government, Vice President of the African Union Commission, Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished invited guests, all protocols observed. I would like, first of all, to thank the government and people of Ghana for their brotherly and warm welcome given us. His Excellency for Nyasigbe, President of the Republic of Togo, would have liked to come to Accra, but he has been impeded at the last moment. He has asked me to convey his apologies to you. It is now my duty to deliver his message, and I quote him. My speech before you today is in line with a broader speech or narrative which constitutes the background to the history of our continent, a history of struggles and tribulations, of successes and resilience. The issue of quest for reparations for historical crimes committed against the people of Africa, which we are calling for today, is not only a quest for financial compensation. It is a journey over time reflecting the aspirations and experiences of an entire continent and its diaspora. Our journey should start with an examination, a retrospective examination of the crimes committed against the people of Africa during the slavery period and colonization. The roots of reparations, reparatory justice is founded in the atrocities committed against our ancestors. The transatlantic slavery is one of the chapters, dark chapters of human history, with millions of Africans that have been taken by force from their native lands, subjected to unimaginable sufferance and put under slavery. The psychological trauma inflicted on these people continue to mark several generations and affect our collective consciousness. Colonialism, with its arbitrary borders and economic exploitation, has strengthened the racial hierarchies and sowed seeds of discord which persist today. The scars of exploitation and dispossession and cultural slavery persist and are marked by economic inequality, cultural disintegration. African Union, recognizing the burden of historical injustice, is ready to be at the forefront of the quest for reparatory justice. Through these institutions, the African Union has provided a platform for member states to confront collectively the colonial heritage. Our council, as a body of the African Union, symbolizes the commitment to promote dialogue, collaboration, and a collective vision for reparations. The efforts within the African Union are not limited to practical initiatives, but also the agenda of African Union for 2026 is an integrated African vision to have an Africa that is prosperous, peaceful, and is articulated around the aspirations of the continent for a future devoid of the shadows of the past. The African Union actually confirms this approach for justice that goes beyond the national borders and requires accountability for the crimes of the history. The aspirations of African people, the context of reparations, goes beyond the simple financial reparation. The reparations for the African continent symbolize the desire for complete reparations for all the wrongs. It's a call for restoration of dignity, to recognition of cultural heritage, and empowerment of people whose history has been characterized by struggle and resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, on the political front, reparations require a re-evaluation of the power dynamics on the global scene. It's a call to dismantle the structures that perpetuate representation and unequal decision-making. We have to guarantee that African nations have an equitable voice in the formulation of national policies that have an impact on their future. On the cultural front, reparations also imply the preservation and revitalization of traditions, languages, and traditional knowledge systems eroded by centuries of external interference. This is a commitment to guarantee that the wealth and cultural diversity of Africa are not lost in the annals of history, but also recognized and celebrated by future generations. On the economic front, reparations involve dealing with systemic inequalities perpetuated by centuries of exploitation. It's a call to restructure the global economic systems that have always marginalized Africa. The realization of economic reparations mean empowering African nations to chart their own path towards development, free from the burdensome heritage imposed by economic structures. On the social front, reparations also mean dealing with the deep-seated wounds inflicted by historic crimes. It is a commitment to heal the psychological trauma that is carried by African generations and the diaspora. Beyond the monetary compensation, reparations also aim at ensuring a feeling of identity, pride, and collective objective. In short, a reconquest of Africa based on narratives that have often been distorted by the authors of these crimes, historic crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that is shaped by geopolitical considerations, our contemporary narrative on reparations should look to establishing a delicate balance between pragmatism and idealism. It should go beyond the framework of policies to establish a linkage with civil society, scientific circles, and popular movements. The reluctance of some nations to recognize the gravity of historical crimes underscore further the need to have qualified approaches that will fill the gaps of understanding and cultivate a shared commitment for justice. The challenges are many, both within institutional circles and civil society. Within the institutional context, subtleties in the international relations and power balance complicate the quest for reparations as a political priority. Civil society, even though it's unavoidable, is faced with the task of mobilizing public opinion and also ensure a collective conscience that go beyond national borders. The bureaucratic obstacles and legal complexities related to the reparation program underscore the need to have complete frameworks that deal with the multifaceted nature of historical injustice. Turning on to the international scene, we find sources of inspiration and narratives that warn us about various programs about reparations. Our quest for justice is based on a common commitment to ensure that we fight against the injustices. We share a common history of displacement, exploitation, and resilience. The quest for reparations goes beyond the geographical frontiers. It's a global movement that is rooted in the knowledge of a shared history and interconnected history. The efforts that aim to mobilize global public opinion in favor of reparations for the people of African descent requires a multi-dimensional approach. Your Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I'd like to say that the call for reparations is a great call to deal with the complexities of history with courage, with compassion, and a relentless commitment for justice. Togo, which echoes the position of the African Union and partner nations, is ready to deal with the complexities of this transformationary journey. In this quest for reparative justice, we have to draw from the strength in our common history to honor courage and resilience of our people, and also construct a future where justice is not only a concept but a living reality. It's a future for where the heritage of colonialism is confronted with courage. It is a future where reparative justice is primordial and gives promise for a world that is just and equitable. I thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you success at this Accra International Conference on Reparation. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Togo, Her Excellency Victoire Tomega Dogwe. And now, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a statement by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Barbados. Please lend your attention to the screen for Excellency Mia Amo Motley.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests all, good day. Whether historically in the contemporary sense, or even as we look towards the future, the value of Africa and her people is unquestioned. It has always been at the center of the world's gaze. But to what end, and to whose benefit? Those answers we know. Those answers are seen, felt, and heard in the fact that despite being the world's most resource-abundant continent, Africa in material wealth is also the poorest. We see the answers in the lives of countless African people and people of African descent globally who lack basic access to healthcare and medicines, who endure some of the worst effects of the global climate crisis, and whose countries are often on the outside, looking in as it relates to accessing global finance to address real vulnerabilities. What we have come to know is a lingering and deeply rooted systemic racism, perfected in the transatlantic enslavement of Africans and reproduced over the years through colonialism and imperialism. Those of us on the other side of the Atlantic, certainly for us in Barbados and other CARICOM countries, we know it all too well. We understand these effects to our core, for we are no strangers to crisis and the constraints of development in the face of inherited inequity. We know the answers to the cause and the effects of systemic oppression because, my friends, we live it every day and have done so. The CARICOM 10-point plan for reparatory justice, named Subcommittee for Reparations, provide for our consideration for native genocide and transatlantic slavery, and we intend to broaden these in name and in focus to address East Indian indentureship and colonialism. Africa's intention to combine its efforts with the Caribbean's in this quest for reparatory justice is therefore timely, appropriate, and a much welcome development. I am confident that our collective vision and call to action can mobilize the global groundswell of support and the continued activism for fairness, justice, and equality for the people of African descent everywhere. This forum has been convened on these questions of peace, justice, and equality as we work to create an action plan for a sustainable reparatory justice process in Africa. And how do we achieve it? The answers we seek will come so long as we continue to ask the right questions. Certainly, any conversation on the future development for Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America must include reparatory justice. The Accra Reparations Conference signifies a strengthening of ties and the collaboration between our respective nations, our institutions, our people and cultures on this long walk towards reparatory justice. The conference, therefore, joins the list of seminal international initiatives of significance to the Black and African peoples of our world. And what are these? 1, the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent. 2, the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. 3, the 2022 Caribbean African Dialogues, co-organized by the University of the West Indies. 4, the Decade of Action to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals. 5, the Caribbean Communities Reparatory Justice Initiative that was launched in 2013. And 6, the African Union Study Tour on Reparations and Healing to the Caribbean, which was hosted by my own country, Barbados, in July of this year. Each initiative, my friends, building on the work of the other and doing its part to reconstruct a global society that functions, yes, to the benefit of all, ALL. The common thread leading us to this moment is the recognition that inequality remains the greatest enemy of progress and development. And until we accept that global problems such as reparations require globally coordinated responses grounded in strong global moral leadership, we will be victims of change rather than leaders of transformation. Accountability must therefore play a key role in the solutions applied in today's world. It is against this background of that impulse towards equality and accountability, harnessing that determination to redress imbalances and inequalities, and to ensure that our nations and our people are not left behind, that all of the partners assembled here must resolve to redouble our efforts and to work collaboratively with each other. Over the next few days, the conference will focus on building a united front and strengthening collaboration among African nations, the African diaspora, civil society organizations, policymakers, and other key stakeholders to advance the cause of justice and reparations. The development of Africa must be defined in its own interests and image. But however, we know that the burden of the reversal of centuries of systemic oppression is not Africa's alone to bear. It is for this reason that I wholeheartedly welcome the establishment of an African Committee of Experts on Reparations as one of the most critical outcomes of this conference. Its mandate to aid in the development of a common African position on reparations and to implement the action plan for a sustainable reparatory justice process is critical to the success of the global reparations movement that we seek. As a region, the Caribbean remains firm in our pledge to deepen and grow the relationship between the Africa Union, CARICOM, and our regional brothers and sisters throughout Latin America. We will continue to apply our collective resources to devise strategies and to pursue synergies in our claim for reparations, the Sustainable Development Goals, the African Union's Agenda 2063, and the objectives of the International Decade for People of African Descent. As we continue this journey, I want us to remember that the questions we ask of ourselves are equally as important to those that we ask of the rest of the world. Chief among those questions has to be, why must we persevere? We will find that answer in the eyes of every child whose future depends on the actions and the decisions that we take today. There, we will see why we must honor our duty to memory and why we must lay down a moral compass that will undergird their humanity and indeed their very survival. We cannot change history, but we must reclaim, harness, and lay bare our collective memories to ensure that the injustices of the past are neither forgotten nor repeated. With these questions, my friends, in mind, as we engage over the duration of this conference, may our mission be a resounding success, and may it pave the way for even greater cooperation and shared achievements as we seek to bring restorative justice to our people after centuries of exploitation and oppression. The future is ours to shape. The future is ours to claim. Thank you.
A phenomenal voice for global Africa, Her Excellency Mia Amomotley. And now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the penultimate statement by the African Union. Please make welcome the AU Chairperson and the President of the Union of Comoros, His Excellency Azali Assoumani.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, I greet you with the greetings of Islam and blessings. My greetings to His Excellency President Akufo-Addo,
Présidence de la Commission de l'Union africaine,
distinguished invited guests, all protocols observed. Assalamu alaikum. Allow me to start by thanking my brother, President Nana Akufo-Addo, as well as the government and people of Ghana for the very warm welcome which was extended to us, to both my good self and my delegation, right from our arrival in this beautiful country. We want to express our gratitude for their hospitality, which makes us feel at home here in Accra. It is indeed an honor for me to be with you today, and this on the occasion of this all-important rendezvous for our continent, and this in its march towards a sustainable economic and human development. We have gathered here indeed to strengthen our unity, and this to move forward the cause for justice regarding reparations relating to slavery and colonialism. This beautiful country, Ghana, is the best place to host such a conference. Indeed, this is the country where Kwame Nkrumah, one of the founding fathers of the African Union, was born. He was one of the promoters of African independence and African rights. Ghana has therefore always been at the forefront of the protection or defense of our parentage and the healing from colonialism and apartheid. Allow me, in this regard, to pay tribute to the continuous commitment of the Republic of Ghana and his president, our brother Akufo-Addo. It is thanks to your exceptional political commitment, also thanks to your advocacy for an equitable and fairer world, and this for the African community as a whole, that the Assembly of Heads of State and Government at the African Union adopted in February 2023 in Addis Ababa, and this unanimously, the historic decision was adopted on the constitution of a united front to promote the courts of justice and the payment of reparations to Africans. Your Excellency, distinguished invited guests, the history of slavery and colonialism in Africa, it's a dark phase of our history, which was characterized by exploitation, suffering, and injustice, which was inflicted upon Africans and their descendants. Whether it was transatlantic or the Western, slavery created irreversible harm within the African populations. It was millions of Africans who were uprooted from their families, from their homes, from their cultures, from their languages and their history. And this brought about incommensurate consequences which continue to wreak havoc in our populations to date. My country, the Union of Comoros, was not spared by this tragic phase of our history. We are the model of Mozambique, and it was one of the stops for the slavery market towards the tragic destinations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us face our history by recognizing its effects and ask for concrete measures to be adopted in order to ensure reparations for the harm caused. It is therefore necessary for us to have a common understanding of the far-reaching nature of the harmful natures, because slavery and colonialism are still resonating in the economic and social as well as political inequalities. We therefore have to pool our efforts together in order to educate, sensitize, and bring about a general awareness within our populations. Not only that, but also within the rest of the world, in order to banish the structures that maintain such inequalities to date. It is in this light that I would like to commend you for the historic decision which was taken at the General Assembly of the African Union, which was undertaken in February 2000. By having this united front, we affirm our commitment for justice and reparations. This united front is therefore a call for action. It is a call to transcend divisions and to work together, and this for the future of each individual, wherever they come from, whatever their race is, whichever their region is, for them to live in dignity. It is financial reparations would make up for the harms, just like it was been done in the CARICOM region. Reparations also involved initiatives which aim at strengthening the victim communities through education and the guarantee of equality in the face of opportunities for sustainable development for these communities who have for long been left behind. Reparations also imply investments in the construction of a common future where there's justice. Reparations finally involves intensifying restructuring efforts in international institutions for justice targeting Africa. This is the meaning of the struggle that we conducted together to ensure a more inclusive world, and which led in September to the integration of our organization, our Pan-African organization, within the G20, which has now become G21. It is along those lines that we are fighting to ensure that we have a permanent seat for Africa within the Security Council of the UN. This request goes hand in hand with our common will to reform our political and international political and financial systems, which unfortunately are not representative of a global ethical structure. Therefore, I call for an ambitious plan for reparations, a plan that would take the form of the financing of industrialization, which we would want to see in our continent for its people. That industrialization would enable our partners for our resources to be transformed or processed here to have value addition, leading to job creation, which would lead to reduction of migration by our youth. That plan would also support the after, for which we have a mission to make further progress during my term in 2023. If we have a united front in order to make progress with justice and the payment of reparations for Africans, we would set the stage for a more equitable and inclusive society. Therefore, would want to see this conference facilitate discussions as well as the sharing of knowledge for more justice and for the lessons of the past to be able to guide us towards a better future for us and future generations. I thank you for your kind attention.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Union of the Comoros and AU Chairperson, His Excellency Azali Assoumani. And now proceeding the final statement by the President of our Republic, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, make welcome playwright, poet, and activist, Chief Momen.
Before my brother in song and poetry left the stage, he promised you that he would be back. And so he has offered me his last words as I come to pour the final foundation and the libation that will usher in the elder of our land to speak. And in pouring this libation, allow me, in the spirit of brotherhood, to go all the way to the Caribbean to draw inspiration from an invocation of a great prophet, a prophet of the fraternity of the Rastafari, inspired by the conquering lions of the tribe of Judah. Get up, stand up for your rights. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up for your rights. Every generation must determine the battles to fight, the rights to stand for, in order to preserve their security and their integrity, to assert their identity on the global landscape. Back in the era of the Middle Passage, when our ancestors were captured, marched through the dungeons, all the way out of the door of no return into the hungry ships waiting to sail to the new world, there were resistance to slavery. There were those who stood up to protect their families and their nations, even across the tempestuous oceans. With no room to breathe or turn in the ships, there were those who still resisted, some preferring to jump overboard into the bottomless ocean than make it to the New World. And even at the New World, across the Americas and the Caribbean, there were those who continued to resist. And it is the culmination of that resistance that led to the abolition of slave trade, that led to civil rights, that led to the freedom fights here on the continent of Africa. And so if we're here today enjoying political rights, it is because others before us sacrificed their sweat, their blood, and their lives. And so, the question for our generation, what battles are we choosing to fight? What rights are we choosing to stand for so that our children may also enjoy from our sacrifice? And that is why we have gathered here today, because we have decided that we will fight the battle for reparations. Not because we feel that you can ever pay us back for all that was taken, but just as it was done to others, some compensation will go a long way to help to bridge the gap between Africa, its diaspora, and the rest of the world. There is a train coming, a train of reparations. Zion train is coming our way. Chuku chaka, chuku chaka. Zion train is coming our way. And the conductor of this train is none other than His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, who I believe, because of his quests for justice, for the consciousness of Africans and the black people around the world, is a true Rastafari at heart. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Zion train is coming our way.
His Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of the Comoros and AU Chairperson, Her Excellency Victoria Tomega Dogbe, Prime Minister of the Republic of Togo, His Excellency Gervais Nidara Kubuka, Prime Minister of the Republic of Burundi, the Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Adao Francisco Correa de Almeida, Senior Minister and Chief of Staff of the Republic of Angola, the Honorable Ronald Lamola, Minister of Justice of the Republic of South Africa, and the Honorable Mr. Laid Rabiga, Minister for War Veterans and Rights Holder, People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, Her Excellency Dr. Ebsi Campbell-Barr, former President, Vice President of Costa Rica, and President of the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, the Honorable Bell Ribeiro Ade, Member of Parliament and Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for African Reparations in the Parliament of the United Kingdom, Her Excellency Dr. Monique Inananzanganawa, Deputy Chairperson of the African Commission, the Honorable Yao Safo Mafo, Senior Advisor to the President of the Republic, the Honorable Joseph Osei-Owusu, Member of Parliament for Bekwai and First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, the Honorable Shirley Ayoko Butche, Ghana's Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, and other ministers and deputy ministers of state, Vice Admiral Seth Amwama, Chief of Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, Dr. George Akufu Dampare, Inspector General of Police, service chiefs, distinguished delegates, senior officials of the presidency, the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow Africans and members of the African diaspora, ladies and gentlemen. Ghana is humbled by her choice as host for the Accra Reparations Conference, which is being held on the theme, Building a United Front to advance the cause of justice and the payment of reparations to Africans. To those of you coming from beyond our shores, especially to the AU Chairperson and President of the Union of Comoros, His Excellency Azali Assoumani, I extend a hearty akwaba, our word of welcome, and I hope you enjoy your stay, all too brief, amongst the people famed for their hospitality. I thank the African Union for this initiative, bringing together under one roof this distinguished audience from all spheres of life and from all over the world to participate in this conference with its rich agenda and to deliberate on its important theme. When I proclaimed 2019 as the year of return in front of the Congressional Black Caucus of the United States Congress, commemorating the 400th anniversary of the commencement of the transatlantic slave trade, one of the most unfortunate and barbaric episodes of human history, I was particularly excited about the passion with which our kith and kin from the Americas and the Caribbean in particular spoke about reconnecting with the motherland. There was the recognition that never again should the black person allow him or herself to be subjected to the dehumanizing conditions of slavery. The barbaric and inhumane transatlantic slave trade, in whatever form, should never be repeated, and never again should the African peoples be described as indentured servants or apprentices for life. For us in Ghana, we recognize our unique position as the occasion for 75% of the slave dungeons built on the west coast of Africa, through which the slaves were transported. Indeed, Simon Newman, in his book, The West African Ethnicity of the Enslaved in Jamaica, says, and I quote, "Evidence suggests that the Gold Coast, now modern-day Ghana, was the largest source of Jamaican slaves who arrived, remained, and survived in Jamaica," unquote. Right from the day we attained our freedom and independence from British colonial rule on the 6th of March, 1957, the first sub-Saharan state to do so, we have always seen ourselves as owing a special responsibility to Africans in the diaspora. Not only do we believe that we have a responsibility to extend a hand of welcome back home to Africans in the diaspora, as we did in 2019 during the year of return, we believe the calls for reparations to Africa are just. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it began with some 20 slaves from West Africa being forcibly sent in 1619 to the Commonwealth of Virginia in order to become part of the United States of America. It was the first of 36,000 voyages to and from Africa, which resulted in some 20 million Africans from Central and West Africa being sold into slavery in the Americas and the Caribbean. We're also told that 10% of this number, that is some 2 million Africans, lost their lives en route to their destinations, with the Atlantic Ocean serving as their final resting places. As if this was not enough, the continent had to endure centuries of being colonized by the same people who undertook the slave trade. The identity and personality of Africans were brutally assaulted, and the imprints of colonialism and imperialism woven deeply into the fabric of our lives. For many of the millions of the descendants of these unwilling travelers to the Americas, Africa remains a continent of deep emotions and unresolved questions. But what we do know is that the African peoples built and contributed to the success of the Americas. And even though they did not willingly make the journeys in the 200 years of the slave trade, once there, they were and have been an integral part of the success in their new homes, even though they have not benefited nearly as much as they should have from their toil. The effects of the slave trade have been devastating to the continent and to the African diaspora. The entire period of slavery meant that our progress, economically, culturally, and psychologically, was stifled. There are legions of stories of families who were torn apart, fathers who went out to fish or farm, never returned, boys who went out to play and were taken, never came back, daughters who went to fetch water, never saw their parents again. You cannot quantify the effects of such tragedies, but they need to be recognized. Africa and her peoples lost out tremendously in that period, and its ripple effects are still being felt right to this day. Reparations for Africa and the African diaspora are long overdue. Predictably, the question of reparations becomes a debate only when it comes to Africa and Africans. When the British ended slavery, all the owners of enslaved Africans received reparations to the tune of some 20 million pounds sterling, the equivalent today of some 20 billion pounds sterling. But enslaved Africans themselves did not receive a penny. Likewise, in the United States of America, owners of slaves received $300 for every slave they owned. The slaves themselves received nothing. Take the case of Haiti, which had to pay reparations amounting to 21 billion United States dollars to French slaveholders in 1825 for the victory of the Great Haitian Revolution, the first in the Americas and the Caribbean, which freed the slaves. It was a payment made under duress that impoverished Haiti throughout the 19th century till today. Native Americans have received and continue to receive reparations. Japanese American families who were incarcerated in internment camps in America during World War II received reparations. Jewish people, 6 million of whom perished in the concentration camps of Hitlerite Germany, received reparations, including homeland grants and support. So it is time for Africa, 20 million of whose sons and daughters had their freedoms curtailed and sold into slavery, also to receive reparations. No amount of money can restore the damage caused by the transatlantic slave trade and its consequences, which have spanned many centuries. But surely, this is a matter that the world must confront and can no longer ignore. And even before these discussions on reparations conclude, the entire continent of Africa deserves a formal apology from the European nations involved in the slave trade for the crimes and damage it has caused to the population, psyche, image, and character of the African the world over. The Caribbean community, CARICOM, has unequivocally pronounced its demand for the payment of reparations. We in Africa must work together with them to advance the cause of reparations. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reiterate that the call for reparations is not a plea for arms, but a valid demand for justice. If reparations can rightfully be paid to victims and descendants of the victims of the Holocaust, so can reparations also be paid to the descendants of the victims of the slave trade. It has been 400 years. It has been 400 years, and we want to bring closure to this tragedy. Whilst at it, let me point out that the subject of reparations must go along with the matter of restitution. The initiative for the return and restitution of African cultural properties to the continent must also be a major issue of concern for all Africans. We must call for the return of African cultural properties that were illegally and shamelessly transported from the continent. This reconnection of the present and the past will also help to build new relations with the international community, especially that of Europe, which was principally responsible for the original theft of the cultural properties. Most of these cultural properties, when returned, will also offer Africans the opportunity to develop local knowledge of the technological, cultural, social, and aesthetic value of the objects. I'm aware that countries such as Senegal, Nigeria, and Benin have managed successfully to regain possession of some of their cultural properties that were illegally moved out of their territories. Ghana has also successfully recovered some of its stolen cultural properties and relics. For example, in 2008, the government of Ghana collaborated with the elders of Ahanta to return the severed head of Nana Bedu II, who was executed in 1838. Other success stories include the return of some family collections of the Ashanti royal family and an Ashanti stool in 1988 by the British government. The return and restitution of African cultural properties to the continent will help Africans, and in particular, the descendants of the communities, groups, and individuals who created and produced these cultural properties to reconnect to their history, to their pioneers, to their knowledge. Together, we must work to change the African narrative, which has been characterized largely by a concentration on disease, hunger, poverty, and illegal mass migration. Let us all remember that the destiny of all black people, no matter where they are in the world, is bound up with Africa. We should never forget the famous admonition of the celebrated Jamaican reggae star Peter Tosh, which I love to cite, when he said, "Don't care where you come from. As long as you are a black man, you are an African," unquote. We must help make Africa the place for investment, progress, and prosperity, and not from where our youth flee in the hope of accessing the mirage of a better life in Europe or the Americas. We must do all we can to derive maximum dividends from our relations with the diaspora in mutually beneficial cooperation and as partners for shared growth and development. That is why I'm excited about the holding of this conference, largely because of the renewed enthusiasm around building Africa together. The second half of the 20th century witnessed a great blow for human freedom and progress when the African peoples, in the wake of Ghana's shining example, liberated themselves from the colonial and imperialist yoke and the racist ideology of apartheid, and emerged as free, independent peoples to construct new nations of hope and advancement. The first half of the 21st century should consolidate this development and see the growth of modern, prosperous, technologically advanced nations within a united Africa, which will make a reality of the dream of the 21st century as the African century and bring dignity and respect to Black people all over the world. My hope is that this conference will chart a roadmap which will define the nature and incidence of reparations that collectively we seek. May God bless Mother Africa, Black people everywhere, and us all. And thank you for your attention.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the President of our Republic and co-convener of the Africa Reparations Conference, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo. One more time, I ask that you put your hands together in celebration of the bold efforts, the vision translated into tangible reality. We thank you ever so much, Mr. President, for all that you call on us to do.
Mesdames et messieurs, la principale institution de financement des exportations du Ghana, la Ghana Exim Bank.
Ghana Exim Bank is represented here by, is presenting an exhibition outside. Do not hesitate to go there to buy your souvenirs made in Ghana.
In addition to getting your made in Ghana souvenirs, we humbly ask that all heads of state join us for lunch at the Stafford on the second floor. And of course, some of the delegates as well will be having lunch in the restaurant and in the garden. Our ushers will be more than happy to guide you to the rightful place for your lunch. And please, last but not the least, kindly leave your translation gadgets on the seats. Please do not take them away with you. Please leave the gadgets on the seats. We'll be needing them at 3:30 for our panel discussion.
And right after lunch, all our heads of state and heads of government will be ushered to the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum for a tour, right after which we shall reconvene here at exactly 3:30 to begin the second plenary, which is a panel discussion on historical crimes and the case for reparations. The moderator will be Ambassador Kwesi Korte, the panelist, Ambassador David Commissioning, Mr. Brian Kagoro, Dr. F.C. Campbell-Barr, and Dr. Julius Garvey, Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, may we kindly ask you to remain seated as we are about to bid farewell to our distinguished heads of state and, of course, our host. If I may kindly ask you to respectfully remain seated for this last part, which is also just as important, please. Kindly remain seated. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve you. My name is Anita Erskine.
My name is Jerry Ajololo, and we ask God's blessing on this conference upon us all in our homeland Africa, that she may be the stream of life, and our homeland Ghana, that she may be blessed and she may be prosperous. We ask that you all rise for the anthems of the African Union and of Ghana.
To defend our liberty.
Members of the press, it is requested that you make your way to the media village. Thank you.